Stacker here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to a Memorial Day weekend live stream. I hope you're all enjoying a little downtime this weekend and getting to spend some time with your family, enjoy some of the simpler things in life. Certainly, there's a lot happening in the world and in the economy at the moment, but that's just all the more reason to enjoy the small things in life and to make sure we are not getting too caught up in the doom and gloom. That being said, we're going to talk about some doom and gloom today because there are some risks out there which are growing, which really threaten to undermine the entire fabric of the global economy. So we'll delve into that a bit as we go through this live stream. Also, before we do that, it's been a big week for silver. And I want to talk about the action that we've witnessed in the silver price. We had, this huge breakout recently above $30. The price shot up to the mid $32 level. Huge moves, critical moves, right? Silver breaking out to the highest level in more than a decade. We've had a little bit of a pullback since then, but this is actually a very, very bullish sign for silver. So let's take a look at the chart and let's examine why we are likely on the verge of the next stage in silver's bull run. Just from a purely technical standpoint, things are looking pretty good. So just to recap, a little glare there, sorry about that, but we have this $30 level, it's the blue line here, and you can see since 2020, this chart goes back to about 2020 or so, silver's been bumping up against that line, bumping up multiple times, bouncing off of it here earlier this year, and then I'm going to zoom in. We had this critical breakout, right? Where the price it blew through $30, and then we had some very big up days. Now, you'll notice the price had a little consolidation, a pullback. This Friday was very, very important for the silver price because we had a weekly close above the $30 level. You can see that just yesterday we had a little bit of a reprieve, a green candle there, and silver bounced very nicely off that $30 level. So what we're witnessing here is, from a technical standpoint, the price level, which at one point was significant resistance, we now have silver's price supported at that level, right? So this is a changing of the $30 level from resistance to support. And as long as silver stays above that level, I think we can say that the breakout is intact. And it's very critical that the weekly close finish the week above $30. I see someone in the chat said they're from Miami. Hello, welcome. And you have a question. Look, if anybody has a question, this is a live stream. Feel free to put it in the chat. And, I try to glance at that as I go along here. I do read most of the chat. Now, I don't always pause for questions and things, but, I'll do my best to do that. It's kind of the fun part of the live streams. I think some people enjoy that, and other people just want me to get on with what I have to say, but we'll see, But if you got a question, put it in the chat. Super chat's always welcome as well, but, I try to get to every question, although if you really want something answered, I don't think I've ever let a super chat go without being addressed. So if you got something big that you need my input on, that's a good way to get my attention. All right, so one thing I want to comment on is what's going on with the physical metals. We are seeing a breakout in the price of the metals, and yet the retail public doesn't really seem to be getting involved. Someone says in the chat that they just bought their first kilo. Is that a good decision? Well, I think so. It's not financial advice, take this for what it's worth, but this really is an excellent time to be entering the silver market because we've had the breakout. The breakout has had the consolidation, the pullback. So I think this is about as good of a price as you're going to get on physical metal for the foreseeable future. Right now, though, like SD Bullion, for example, today's video sponsor, this is where I buy my gold and silver. They've got a deal over the weekend with 100-ounce silver bars for 29 cents over spot, any quantity. Now, the spot price has risen, and I understand that. But this is a fantastic deal, and the fact that there's still premiums this low on physical silver is indicative of the fact that this breakout is still in its infancy, right? The retail investors are selling the breakout, it seems like, right? To have premiums 29 cents over spot is, if you've been stacking for any length of time, that's like stacking back in the old days. Premiums have really come back down And that's a sign that, folks like you and me who are buying up retail silver bullion products, not the, big players who are buying up, maybe 1,000 ounce COMEX bars, or they're just buying up paper contracts, but, folks who are buying 10 ounce, 100 ounce bars, what have you, premiums are really low right now. And that means, I mean, to me, look, I like to buy things when they're cheap. So to me, we've had a pullback, premiums have come down. This is a time to be getting into the market. And I think that we should view this as a huge opportunity. And really, I mean, this is a great time to be getting into the market because if you think about it, if you've been stacking for a long time like I have and like many of you have, yeah, your dollar cost averaging, it's nice. But to be able to buy in after the breakout, but after a pullback, I mean, where, in a matter of weeks, we could be looking at much higher silver prices. Now, look, none of that is guaranteed, okay? You got to understand this is all speculation and it's just, my forecast. But look, in 2011, once silver broke through the $30 level, it was in weeks, we were at $50. I think it was what, like 10 weeks, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know, put it in the chat. Same thing that we witnessed in 2020 when we had those crazy lows in silver. Silver was down to like $12, and then you had a violent move up. Silver almost doubled in price in like a matter of a few weeks. And I think that we could be on the cusp of a event similar to that, given the technical situation and also given the fundamentals and the geopolitics that are playing out right now. Now, there's 129 of you in this live stream. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying it thus far. We've got 18 thumbs up, so do me a favor, smash the like button to help get this information out there, because the more people who get prepared with hard assets outside of the digital financial system as we move forward, the better off we're going to be. And stackers, there's a lot of talk of the silver squeeze, the potential of sticking it to those who are manipulating the market with paper shorts. Well, the way that you do that is you buy physical. So we are kind of all on the same team here, and it's team average Joe who is really turning any manipulation of the silver price to our advantage by buying at artificially low prices. And certainly still, I mean, gold is breaking out to new all-time highs seemingly whenever we get a positive day. The all-time high now in the $2,400 range. Right now silver's or gold is somewhere in the 2330, 2340, something like that. But silver is still way below its all-time highs, especially if you adjust previous highs for inflation. So there's a lot of room to move up here. Silver has broken out above $30, still very cheap if you ask me. Now let's talk about some of the geopolitics. I haven't really been covering this too much, although certainly things are heating up around the world. So there's two really that I just want to touch on briefly, and this is going to delve into a territory that's really a huge risk for the global economy, and I'll tell you what I mean as we go along here. But right now, Ukraine is utilizing US-made weapons more and more frequently to strike within Russian territory. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. Ukraine hits Russian complex in occupied Crimea with US supplied missiles. Now, some people will call it occupied Crimea. Some people think it's part of Russia. I'm not really taking a stance on that one way or the other. As far as I'm concerned, who administers distant pieces of land is not a real pressing issue for me when we have so many problems domestically. But from the standpoint of, the risk of being drawn into a broader regional war, what we're seeing here is, mission creep. Every now and then, or as time goes by, you get these incremental escalations, right? And this is heading on a path towards, NATO being drawn into this conflict, potentially the use of tactical nuclear weapons by one side or the other, probably the Russians, the way things are playing out. I mean, given that that's their strong suit. And, I'm not a military guy, I'm not an expert on this sort of thing, but they've been, talking about the utilization of tactical nuclear weapons. And we have to understand that, if NATO officially gets drawn in here, if a tactical nuclear weapon goes off somewhere in Eastern Europe, that is going to be a huge shock to global markets. Now, as far as NATO getting involved, that's going to be a big problem, right? Because we're already 37 $1 trillion in debt or what have you, massive, massive levels of debt and deficits going on right now, inflation creeping back up. That's going to be a far, far greater problem. We're going to be printing tons of money, borrowing huge amounts of money to get involved in this conflict. It's going to be consuming material, so there's going to be more fiat currency, less physical goods. You can see this is a recipe for a huge problem. But this is not really news. I mean, the conflict in Eastern Europe has been escalating for some time, and assuming it maintains the current trajectory, things are likely to get pretty ugly there. But there was another one recently, this situation in China surrounding Taiwan. So it's a new Taiwanese president who was inaugurated recently. China has taken affront to this because he's, pro-independence, doesn't want to be reclaimed by the Chinese mainland, what have you. Same old story there. But China, in response to this, seems to have launched these large scale war games, right? So they just wrapped these up. Some of the largest war games in the region that we've seen. China ends war game. Taiwan details warplane warship surge. You can see some of the, looks like, propaganda video that's going around there on Reuters streaming this. But look, if this escalates, and I guess this time around it turns out to just be exercises, right? No major escalation there. China didn't invade Taiwan or anything like that. But when the day comes, and it likely will, that they try to reunify, this is what it will look like, right? They're going to say it's a drill. It'll be disguised as an exercise. Typically these conflicts, the opening phases are disguised as exercises. That is the way that it goes these days. If you want to launch a major, full-scale invasion of an area, you station a bunch of troops around there and you say they're doing drills, and then it turns into the real thing. And should that happen, that will be so devastating to the global economy. I mean, certainly you can talk about gold and silver. I mean, yeah, the prices of gold and silver will skyrocket, safe haven assets. But here's why this is such a huge problem. I mean, it's because what they manufacture in Taiwan. Look at NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA is now the third largest company in the world. It's got a market cap of $2.6 trillion. I believe it only lags Microsoft and Apple in terms of the size of the company. And, NVIDIA, they're driving this whole AI revolution. They're making all the semiconductors and the chips that are required for that. Well, they rely on facilities in Taiwan, right? That's where a lot of their manufacturing capacity is located. And that goes for the world's top manufacturers of semiconductors. This critical component in the AI revolution, in the direction that all of this big tech is headed in. And so many things rely on this, right? And I've read that if China invades Taiwan, Taiwan has these plans with kill switches to shut it down. But I mean, how that plays out doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if China seizes it and they gain control of it. It doesn't matter if China blows up the semiconductor facilities in Taiwan. It doesn't matter if Taiwan shuts them down with a kill switch to deny them to, an occupation force. It doesn't matter. The bottom line, as far as we're concerned, individuals just living our lives, is that many of the goods that we consume, many of the industries that we have come to depend on, well, they're just not going to function anymore, right? I mean, you think the supply chain breakdown over, the past 5 years or so was a problem. I mean, what is coming, should this conflict break out, will make all of that look like an absolute walk in the park, right? Now, how do you get prepared for that? Well, I mean, things could get really bad. It's hard to say in a interdependent, globalized economy and globalized world, which we're witnessing the breakdown of, and we have been witnessing the breakdown of for years now. As that breaks down, you're going to have unintended consequences, right? It's going to be difficult to forecast exactly what's going to break down. Will there be no smartphones available? Will there be no automobiles available? Will power generation be affected? Will municipal water supplies be affected? Will the grid itself be affected? It's hard to say. But certainly there will be some impact on many aspects of life. And, the financial system is currently an incredibly fragile thing. We have this huge over-leveraged economy. Everybody's in debt up to their eyeballs. The system is the opposite of what one would consider resilient. So, you've got to consider that should these drills someday turn into a real conflict, that some of the systems that we rely on just may not be there anymore, or they may begin to break down in a very serious way. So, you got to take care of your basic systems of support, your food, your water, all of that stuff. When it comes to finance for that kind of an event, should a conflict around Taiwan turn into a hot war? And I mean, certainly to me, from my perspective, that seems like an inevitability, right? It's more of an when, not if. But you're going to want the basics for that. You're going to want your core position in metals. For me, I do like the bars. They're a great way of just storing wealth. I also like junk silver. The 90% coins. I think that's one of the most important things you can have on when it comes to metals for preparedness. Goldbacks are another one I like because they're divisible. They're suitable for currency, and cash. Cash is another thing that you're going to want to have on hand because it might be devaluing, but I think there will be a window should a crisis of this nature play out when it's possible that digital assets may freeze up, but cash is still recognized. So those are the things you want to really focus on in terms of preparedness. I think as a core position in divisible metals, for silver, junk silver, for gold, I like gold backs a lot. Also, 1/10 ounce gold coins are fine, but when you can go 1/1000th of an ounce, I think that's perhaps even better. But also, don't neglect your basics, right? Your food, your water, some independence regarding energy, because you just don't know what the unintended consequences of this be. But one of them almost certainly will be a crisis in the financial system. And, we know what the powers that be like to do when that sort of thing rears its head, right? They print a lot of fiat currency. So, there's a lot going on right now. Even if everything is just rainbows and unicorns from a geopolitical situation, silver, from a technical standpoint, is set up here for a major rally. And when you look at the risks around the world that could threaten to create a huge rush into safe haven assets, well, look, again, not financial advice, but I think that having a portion of one's wealth stored in a physical form that you can keep in your possession and that you can have ready access to, and that doesn't have the counterparty risk that comes along with the digital assets that the majority of people rely on for all of their wealth preservation. You want to have some of this stuff. So leave me a comment down below to let me know what you think about the topics that we covered here. How significant do you think the geopolitical risks are as we wrap up 2024? If you have a forecast for how that might play out, leave it in the comments down below. And let me know your favorite bullion to stack for preparedness. That's it for today, everybody. Stay safe and happy stacking. Hope you enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. I will catch you next time. Stay safe and happy stacking. Smart Silver Stacker, out.